Good morning and welcome to the last and final session of Theory of Firm under Perfect Competition. This will be the session 4 where we are going to start understanding what are the concluding factors of a firm under perfect competition. So let's start right away trying to understand the shutdown point altogether. Now, what is a shutdown point? In the previous classes, we were trying to discuss about this important factor called as shutdown point. So when you start seeing a shutdown point, even when you start listening to the name of shutdown point, it sounds negative. Why does it sound negative? Is that the industry is going to crash? Is it that the business is going to completely end? What is this shutdown point altogether? Economically speaking, when the price comes below the average variable cost, so you have the price factor here and the price is coming below the average variable cost, automatically you are not able to survive and you need to close down the business altogether. Now this is a very important factor for all of us to know. The average variable cost is here and the price is moving downwards. That's what the graph indicates. That's what the slide indicates for you. It says that my variable cost is not coming down. My average variable cost, be it land, labor, capital or machinery or any other factors that are needed for me to produce a particular good, the cost factor is just not coming down. The cost factor remains intact, but my price, I'm trying to lower it down because I want to survive. So I get an ideology in my mind, let me keep the price as low as possible and still try to survive in the market. But in the long run, if you start thinking about it, you will see to understand that if the cost keeps on increasing and if your price keeps on coming down, you are not able to cover your average variable cost, then the existence itself starts coming down. So that leads to a shutdown point. That leads to a position where you need to close your business, where you need to completely exit out of your business and say a final goodbye. So shutdown point is a very important and a crucial factor for any industry. So before even you start an industry, before even you start manufacturing, you need to calculate all your variable cost. All the variable costs should be calculated in such a manner that you are able to understand the final price and then start pricing your product above the average variable cost. If you start pricing it below the average variable cost, it will lead to a shutdown point altogether. So this is very important. This will also be a question that will be asked in your exams. So all you have to keep in your mind and write in the examination, price coming below the average cost, average variable cost leads to the shutdown point altogether. Moving forward, normal profit. Now the word profit has got different meanings in economics. So what is that normal profit? What is an abnormal profit or a supernormal profit? These are all new words or new jargons that we learn in economics. But let us try to understand the meaning of what is a normal profit, a supernormal profit altogether. Now, for any business, there is an explicit cost. What is this explicit cost? Land, labor and capital are explicit costs. You cannot hide it. You cannot get over that factor saying that there is going to be no cost and we are going to run a business that is going to be completely free of all cost. So there is an explicit cost. There is a built-in cost that will be seen, that will be there in any of the business. So you need to take that cost with you as you start moving forward. You cannot go back and say that the cost will completely get over a period of time. Next comes the opportunity cost, which means to say that when you are doing a particular business, you will always get new opportunities. You will try to weigh upon, can I go for option 1 or can I go for option 2? I want to make a choice between those two. The first option says that using this much of cost, I will be able to manufacture a particular product, or going for the second option, at a higher cost, I will get a better margin. So there is always a situation that runs in the mind of the entrepreneur where he starts thinking about this factor. Should I give up on one opportunity and take the next opportunity so that I will be able to make better profits? So the opportunity cost itself is a thought factor that runs in the mind of people, trying to understand which is the best opportunity for me, which is the best option for me, where I can strike and I can make the best profit altogether. Moving forward from there, we move to the normal profit. What is this normal profit altogether? When you are able to cover all your expenses, cover all your costs, and then you are able to make some money above your cost. That is called as your normal profit. So at any given point of time, when you are able to cover all your costs, your explicit cost, your inbuilt cost, your sales cost, marketing cost, all the cost is covered, and then you are able to make some profit, you are able to make some money, that is what we call as your normal profit. Now this normal profit is the situation what any business would tend to achieve over a period of time. Why? Because today when I say the word normal profit, that means you have achieved it over a period of time. You have done it like any other business by overcoming your cost factors, by overcoming all the explicit factors, and you have reached there. So that means your business is running like any other business, taking into factors of cost, taking into factors of all that necessary things, and then moving to the sales with a price that can give you a return covering all the costs. So normal profit in the normal run is what any business will expect, any business will tend to arrive at in a given period of time. Moving forward, break-even point. What is this break-even point? Why is this break-even point so important for us? Why? Because the break-even point, the word itself, somewhere I'm breaking out, somewhere I'm coming out of that normal situation. So till now, when I was doing my business, I was in a non-profit zone. I was not making money. My ideology as a businessman, my ideology as a firm was to make some money. But until this point came, I was not able to make any profit. So break-even point is the point where the company is neither making a loss nor making a profit. So now you have come to the position where the money that you have invested, you have recovered. Suppose you have started a business with 1 lakh rupees. So now the business has run for 6 months or 1 year, and you are able to cover that 1 lakh rupees back. So automatically what happens? You have covered the break even. Now you have come to the break even point because you have been able to recover back your money. Whatever you have invested, that you have recovered. You have not made 1 rupee more than that. So you have just recovered the money that you have put inside. So that particular point is a break-even point where you are able to recover all the costs. Moving forward from here, that is my profit. That's my dream zone. After my break-even point, I want to make profits. From here, every single rupee that you are going to make, every single dollar that you are going to make is going to be your profit. So again, break-even point is the point where you are going to recover all your expenses. You are not making profit. You are only recovering your expenses at any given point of time. Moving forward, opportunity cost. This is a very, very simple and important concept that comes in our day-to-day life. Every time when we take up a project, when we take up something new in our life, there's always a lot of opportunities. We look at it in different ways, in different angles. Sometimes we would have thought that it's better that we would have become an engineer. Sometimes, no, I want to be a doctor. Sometimes I want to be an astronaut. Sometimes a lawyer. So there are a lot of opportunities that keep thinking in your mind and you want to encash on it. Similarly, in a business, there's always an opportunity cost. Which one would you like to go for? Would you like to start a small manufacturing firm and then start going forward? Would you like to start a mid-sized manufacturing firm or a large manufacturing firm? There are multiple opportunities that keep coming to you. But the most important thing that you need to understand in your mind is that every opportunity comes with a cost factor. You cannot say opportunities are free of cost. There is some cost that is involved with it. Now, what is this opportunity cost exactly in terms of economics? In terms of economics, opportunity cost is the next best cost or the next best reason that you can take together to move forward. So, for example, you are going to forego an opportunity. Right now, you are getting an investment from a venture capitalist who is ready to invest 1 crore rupees in your business. But you don't want to take that because you want to wait and you are ready to forego that 1 crore and you are ready to wait for some time so that you will get a better venture capitalist who is ready to invest 2 crores or even 5 crores in your business. So at this moment, when you are foregoing one opportunity and ready to take the next best opportunity in order to go forward, that's where this opportunity cost comes into picture. So this is actually a risk and reward calculation. You balance between the both. You want to take the risk, you are ready because that risk will give you some reward. So we are going by the opportunity cost factor in economics because every entrepreneur will try to judge, will try to weigh upon the circumstances, will try to weigh upon the options that are being given to him and select the best option that is being provided so that he is able to make the profit in the long run altogether. And this is not something which is only in economics, this happens in every aspect of business altogether. Moving forward, the determinants of firm's supply curve. What are the determinants today that actually matter in terms of economics? Now, if you start saying for any firm today to supply, let us say that it might be a textile, it might be mobiles, it might be laptops, or it might be any manufacturing thing altogether. The first thing itself is the input, availability of inputs. Suppose I want to do a business that involves the manufacturing of garments, be it in cotton, silk, or any other material that is used to manufacture a garment. The first thing that I need to think upon is the availability of raw material. Am I able to get the inputs, the very basic input for the supply, for the manufacturing altogether? So, the availability of capital, availability of inputs for me matter a lot during the supply. And that comes with a cost factor. That's not just going to come for free. So, for me, inputs matter a lot when it comes to the supply curve. Similarly, the application of technology, that matters a lot today in the modern economics. Why? If you start looking at the supply chain, now for example, let us talk about Amazon, let us talk about Flipkart. All these people in the e-commerce front have been the leaders in supply chain, have been the leaders when it comes to the supply of goods altogether. Anytime you log into their website or you log into the app using your mobile phone, the availability of goods is at an instant. They immediately give you a date, they give you a price, and they say that the goods will be available to you or delivered to you on a particular day. How is that possible? Because if I go to a shop, a normal shop, and I say that, sir, I want to buy this product, he says that, sir, it's not available. I need to raise an order, it might come tomorrow, day after tomorrow. But when I go to Amazon and I just click on that screen and I say that I need this product, he immediately gives me an update and he says that it's available for you at this price, at this juncture, and it will be delivered to you at this particular point of time. which means to say that it's the technology that he is using altogether. The supply chain technology, the data mining technology, what he is using altogether in order to make the availability of supply continuously towards the consumer really matters on the firm's supply chain. So at any point of time, when you have the inputs, when you have the raw materials ready with you to manufacture, you will be in a position to manufacture. You will be able to manufacture in huge amounts because there's a continuous influx coming in terms of your raw material. And you have the technology to take forward that material into the market as per the demand of the consumer. Automatically, you are on the top of the supply chain curve altogether. So we need to keep in mind the inputs, the technology and the capital part that comes into picture. You have these factors ready-made, inbuilt as you start the manufacturing industry altogether, then automatically you are moving up the supply chain factor. These are the reasons why today when you start looking into the e-commerce field, which is upcoming, which is really becoming the emerging sector in India, the reason being is that of the adaptation towards technology. They have gone really high on technology. They have made very, very clear that the product needs to be made available for the consumer at any given point of time. So if there is not one supplier, they have millions of suppliers who's ready to provide the same kind of good at a price, reasonable price to the consumer, so that the consumer never gets disappointed and they are able to match the supply and demand in the market. Going forward, unit tax. The word tax is very, very important when it comes to any economy because tax is a direct revenue to the government. But when we start talking about tax in microeconomics, in the firm context altogether, there is a tax that comes for the firm, there is a tax that comes in terms of paying for the goods, for the materials altogether. So when you start including the tax factor into supply, automatically there is a price increase that happens. The moment the tax factor starts going up in a country, that directly affects the supply chain, the supply curve of the firm. Now in India, we have a very flexible tax system. We have a slab-based tax system. So for every import, for every export that we do, there are some tax factors that will get added upon based on the material, based on the type of goods and on the export factors altogether. So when you are supplying good from one country to another, from one state to another, there is a tax factor that gets added up. So this tax factor is calculated as a unit tax factor. For every unit, for every point of the good, there is some tax that needs to be paid by the manufacturer to the government, which is a part of the revenue cycle altogether. So you cannot avoid the unit tax. Unit tax is an inbuilt cost that starts coming in, and you need to start keeping in your mind that you are going to pay tax for every single supply of the good that is going to go out of your company. Moving forward, the unit tax graph. This is a very, very important factor. Assuming that we are all the long run supply factor people, that means taking the cost on the y-axis and the output on the x-axis, you would see here at a point P0, this is the price that was initially there. But then with the addition of tax factor, automatically the marginal cost and average cost has gone up. When the price was here, the marginal cost and average cost were at a particular position, they were slightly lower. But moment when you start adding tax factor, there is an increase in marginal cost, there is an increase in average cost. This shows that by the addition of tax, the cost factor will increase. The supplier will immediately try to increase the price because he has to match all the costs. Initially, when there is no tax, the prices would have been lesser. But moment the tax factor starts coming in, the price will start going up. It will get added up to his marginal cost. It will get added up to his average cost. Moving forward, the supply curve tax. Now, there are countries in the world where there is no tax at all, or practically speaking, almost a nil tax altogether, a very small tax altogether. There are countries where the goods are highly taxable. So when you are supplying to countries based on the taxation system, again looking into the graph factor, taking price on the y-axis, output on the x-axis. Initially you have a price here P0. That will tend to give you a supply S0. Now, moment that price gets added up with the tax, there is an addition. The tax amount gets added up to the price, so the supply curve will shift leftwards. It's not moving rightwards. The supply curve gets constricted. Why? Because tax adds up. Now what is going to happen is I cannot supply the good at the same quantity, same price. There is going to be a constriction. So automatically what happens? The curve will shift leftwards. So there is a constriction. There is a movement on the supply curve altogether. Now what happens to the company is that, taking the cost factor of tax into mind, he will determine the supply altogether. Suppose the tax is going to keep on increasing day by day, or month by month, or year by year. Automatically there will be a disruption in the supply curve altogether. So we need to keep in mind at any given point of time, the supply curve has a direct impact, has a direct connection with the taxation system. Going forward, market supply curve. What is the market supply curve? How is the price of a good that is determined in the market? It's quite simple. The price is determined at the point where the demand and supply factors meet all together. That's where you are going to determine the price. You have a demand by the consumer, but will the consumer be able to save or give the same price altogether? Definitely not. So you need to get to a point, you need to arrive at a point where the supply and demand curve match. That is where you are coming to the word equilibrium, a perfect market condition where you see that the supply and demand curve is matching. You will fix a price and that price will get accepted by the consumer. Now the consumer feels, for the demand that has been raised in the market, I am ready to pay the price because there is a supply of good and that good can be procured by me at a particular cost that has been set in the market. Now when you start understanding this entire psychology of pricing in a very simple manner, supply and demand are the two most important factors that will determine the price of any product in this world. It is not through consumer, it is not through manufacturer, not through government, or not through any producers. It is the meeting of supply and demand. Now for example, you are manufacturing bicycles and there is no demand for bicycle in your country. Automatically, how much ever lower you price, people are not going to buy. But on the other hand, if you look into countries like Finland, Norway, Denmark, Germany, these are countries where bicycles are used more when compared to cars. That's because of the consciousness towards the green environment. So when they are manufacturing bicycles there, they are doing it because of the demand that is being raised by the people. So they will set in a price based on the supply and the demand factor altogether. That is the point, or that is the price where the consumer is ready to pay and take the bicycle. So for any product, the demand and supply factors have to match. When they start matching, we reach an equilibrium point, and that is where the price will be determined. Moving forward, elasticity. What is the meaning of elasticity? Now the general meaning of elasticity itself is stretchable, relaxable. So elasticity in supply also matters a lot. Why? Because when you look in supply, is the supply chain flexible? Depending on the market, are you able to supply more or are you able to supply less? This matters a lot when it comes to the elasticity. Now why does elasticity plays a vital role? Now if you start looking into the current situation of economy, there is a sudden demand for necessary goods. food, shelter and clothing. Will the market be able to pace up and meet the demand of the people? So that means the supply curve has to be flexible enough, stretchable enough that it's able to meet the demands of all the people of this country. If it is able to do so, there is an elasticity factor that comes in. But how is that elasticity coming in? It comes in with a price elasticity, which means change in price depending on the change of supply. So change in supply determined by a price factor altogether. You are not just going to give it away because of elasticity. This elasticity will come with a price factor. So moment you vary your price, the variation in supply will also happen. This is true in the case of all the goods in the market today. Because when you start looking into any product, be it vegetables, be it oil, or be it gold or silver or any metals for that matter, there is a price elasticity, there is a price bandwidth that we keep talking about. This word bandwidth is very, very important for us. Why? Because at many times you would see that the price of a good ranges between a particular limit. There's always an upper limit and lower limit on which we keep talking. We don't talk on fixed price. We never go and say that the price of a particular good is X only. It ranges between X1 to X10, which means there is a variability, there is a stretchable bandwidth on which the price keeps on moving. And this happens purely because of the fluctuations of the supply. If the goods is available on demand and the market is ready to accept you, the price is at a particular range. If the demand is very high, supply is very low, the price automatically varies for us. So elasticity is a very, very important concept, and this will keep varying according to the movement in supply factor altogether. So with this, we come to the conclusion of the chapter 4. I hope and I believe that you have been able to learn some new concepts, very interesting concepts about the firm in terms of cost, in terms of supply, in terms of elasticity, and in terms of the variable cost and the varying factors. Now this chapter is very important for us because not just from a mark standpoint but also from the economic understanding. So I believe and I understand that all of you will do their best in terms of understanding this lesson, understanding the concept to the maximum level possible. And I also understand and I believe that this chapter will definitely make a difference in terms of giving you the concepts at a higher level altogether. Thank you once again for joining me today on this wonderful session. Stay tuned, stay learning, and stay enlightened as always. Thank you once again.